Let's begin with a word that's often been used as an insult, and that's blue-pilled. It's a term that's thrown around in red pill and black pill circles, especially to describe people who still believe the lies, people who haven't quite woken up yet, people who supposedly still think that the world is fair, that love is real, and that things are just going to turn out okay. But behind the sarcasm, there's a question that's worth asking still, and that is, what if holding on to hope isn't blindness? What if it's instead courageousness or bravery? Because believing in something good, especially after you've been hurt, that takes strength. And believing that love is possible even after a heartbreak, believing that people can change even after they've failed you, these are not for the faint of heart. When you believe that connection is still worth the risk, even when you've been rejected yourself. This is not easy stuff. That doesn't make someone stupid. Instead, it makes them human. And in a culture that rewards cynicism, choosing hope can often feel like a quiet act of rebellion. So let's talk a little bit about that. Because in the eyes of many, especially in the red pill community, the blue-pilled man is weak. He's seen as a dupe, as a sucker, as someone who still believes in fairy tales. But in reality, this so-called blue-pilled man might be someone who's simply choosing not to give up. Not because he hasn't been hurt, but more so because he refuses to let the hurt become his identity. And that distinction is what really matters, because pain changes, it changes you. And it doesn't have to define you, even though it can change you. The red pill says the world is harsh, so get smarter, get colder, and get tougher. The black pill community would say the world is hopeless, so give up, withdraw, and basically accept your fate. But the blue pill community, it says something even quieter. It says maybe things can still get better. Not because you've earned it, not because you deserve it, but because life is still unfolding and you haven't seen the whole story yet. So that's not delusion. That that's humility. And humility is one of the most beautiful, one of the strongest postures a person can take in this world today. Because in it, it means you are open. You're open to growth. You're open to connection, and you're open to change. And yeah, that openness, it can make you vulnerable, yes, but it also makes you alive. And that's what many critics of hope don't quite understand. That's the very point that they misunderstand. They see it as fragility, and in reality, it's actually the fuel. You see, hope is what gets you out of bed after the rejection. Hope is what makes you try again, even after failure. Hope is that thing that gives you the courage to see and be seen, even when you are scared. And let's be honest about it. The alternative is not strength. The alternative is more like self-protection. See, cynicism, it doesn't keep you safe. It actually keeps you alone. Sarcasm doesn't heal you. It just hides the wound. And detachment doesn't make you wise. It makes you unreachable. So, so maybe the blue-pilled man isn't blind. Maybe he's building something that the bitter man, the man who has bitterness, isn't able to see. Maybe he's practicing something that takes far more courage than contempt ever could. Because it's easy to be jaded. It doesn't take energy to be jaded. It's easy to write people off. It's easy to sit on the sidelines with your arms crossed and say, see, I told you so. What's hard though is staying open. What's even more challenging is staying soft, staying willing to love again. So the question is, are you blue pilled? The question is even more so, what kind of man do you want to be? Are you the kind of man who hides behind the theories? Or are you the one that shows up with truth? The one who, are you the one who always needs to be right? Or are you the one who actually dares to take the risk? Because being blue pilled isn't about ignorance. It's more about integrity. And it's the kind that says, I will not let this world make me hard. That's, that's where we ought to begin. See, if you believe in love, especially after you've been ghosted or cheated on or even left behind, that's not delusion. That is resilience. And if you still think that honesty matters in a world that's full of manipulation, that's not naivete. That's integrity. And if you hold on to the softness when the world has rewarded the cruelty, that is not weakness. That's strength. But the world doesn't always tell you that, especially online. See, the in so many circles, being blue pilled is framed as being behind, as being foolish, or as being a child in a world of men. But the truth is, hope isn't childish. Hope is actually very costly. It costs you your cynicism. It costs you being cool or appearing cool. It costs you the protective shield of pretending that you actually don't care. And that's why so many avoid that cost. Because hope, it makes you feel again, right? And and feeling is it's risky. It's not guaranteed. Feeling means you're admitting that you still want something, that you're still lacking in something that is genuine. And if you want something, there's a possibility you could lose it. But what's the alternative? I mean, you have numbness, you have bitterness, you have disconnection. You've got those signs that are presenting that you're enlightened. They're the signs of grief that has nowhere to go, and grief that that got misnamed is realism. Grief that got rerouted, we call rigidity. Grief that itself was hoping against hope that it wouldn't hurt too much. Ouch. And so you tend to harden, and you memorize the stats, and you repeat the theories. You you shake your head at those fools who still believe in love. But secretly you miss the version of you that they used to believe. Secretly you miss that version that used to hope again. The version of you that used to daydream, the one that used to give a care, that actually even tried at one point. So let's name something important, shall we? Hope is not the absence of evidence. Hope is the presence of intention. It says, even if I've been let down before, I'm still going to show up and engage and try. Even if I don't know how it is going to work out, I'm still going to take the risk and follow through. Even if I've been burned before, I refuse to let bitterness become my identity. See, that kind of hope isn't passive. That's a fierce kind of a hope. It takes far more courage to stay soft than to go numb. And it takes far more power to stay kind than to shut yourself down. And so when someone calls you blue pilled, you don't have to shrink. You don't have to explain yourself. You you don't even have to argue. Just remember, it's easy to mock what you're afraid to feel. And a lot of people are afraid to feel, because feeling means owning your pain and owning your desire. It means owning your story. And most people haven't been taught how to do that. They've been taught how to armor up. They've been taught how to win debates and how to dominate, right? And how to conquer, and what they really haven't had is someone teach them how to sit in the silence and say that hurt. They haven't been taught how to stay in the room when they feel unseen. They haven't been taught how to grieve yet, and then get up and try again. But you can learn that. You can practice those characteristics. You can model what that looks like, and not because it's easy, but more so because it's real. You see, that's what integrity looks like. That's what intimacy requires. And that's what the blue pill, when it's reclaimed with dignity, can represent. Not ignorance, but the refusal to give up. Not a blind faith, but a brave hope. So let's keep digging a little further in this, because something we need to talk about is a thing that often gets missed in these conversations. And that's the difference between hope and fantasy. You see, hope isn't pretending that nothing will go wrong. Hope is knowing that things will go wrong and still showing up anyways. Fantasy, however, says everything's going to be all right. It'll be perfect. Hope says it might not be, but I'm still going to try. Fantasy, however, denies the pain. Hope integrates the pain, and that's why hope is stronger. It makes space for the pain. It bolsters you for the pain because it doesn't ask you to lie to yourself. It just asks you to keep going, even when the truth feels heavy. But many people confuse the two of these things. They think that if you believe in love, you must be ignoring reality. They think if you believe in fairness, you must not have faced injustice in your experience. They think that if you believe in people, you must be sheltered. But often, it's the ones who hope the hardest, they're the ones who've been hurt the deepest. Because they know the cost. And they know what it feels like to be betrayed. They know what it feels like to be ghosted and to be mocked. They know what it feels like to be forgotten. And yet they choose not to become the very thing that hurt them. That is strength right there. That is integrity with strength. And that is the kind of hope that's worth reclaiming. So let me make this plain. You can be informed and you can still believe. You can be aware and you can still hope. You can be experienced and still love. In fact, that's the most powerful version of hope that there is. It's the kind that comes after the storm. It's the kind of hope that doesn't need guarantees. It's the kind of hope that says, I've seen the worst and I'm still here. The kind of hope that changes things in your own world and those around you. It changes how you treat yourself and how you treat others around you. You stop punishing your own tenderness, and then you start believing in your ability to feel. You stop mocking your own emotions, and instead you start honoring what it is that you're feeling and what it is you're believing, even when it's inconvenient. And slowly, your life begins to shift, and you stop chasing the validation. And instead, you start to practice self-respect. Yeah, you stop looking for shortcuts as well, too. Because now you start building for solid foundations. because you realize something quite radical, and that is that you don't need to become heartless to protect your heart. You don't need to become heartless to protect your heart, nor do you need to become bitter to survive betrayal. And you don't need to become hard to feel respected. You just need to experience wholeness. And this wholeness includes that pain that is a part of your experience. It includes your dreams of what could be. It includes the desire that you have to be loved and to be chosen and to be known. See, those things do not make you weak. Quite the contrary, they actually make you real. And in this world that's so full of performance, realness is quite revolutionary. So let them call you blue-pilled. Let them say that you're naive. Let them protect their fear and let them project that onto your softness. You're not here to win debates. You're here to live a life of depth, of connection, and of truth. And you see, that's what hope helps to build. It's not a fantasy. It's not a fantasy existence. It's actually a full life. So let me close this episode here with some clarity. The question isn't whether hope is naive. The real question, my dear listener, is whether bitterness is sustainable. And for many, it's not. Because bitterness, it might give you that momentary sense of power. But what it does is it steals your peace away. It might keep you safe perceptually from disappointments, but it also keeps you numb to joy. It might protect you from heartbreak, but it also shuts the door on love. So if being blue-pilled means that you're still willing to believe in something that's bigger than cynicism, maybe that's not weakness at all. Maybe that's the bravest thing that a person can do. To choose kindness in a world that rewards cruelty. To show up for people who never show up back. And maybe to speak with softness, even when sarcasm would be far easier. That kind of life isn't about being naive. No, it's about being anchored. It's about being anchored in your values, being even aware of what your values are, anchored in your depths of conviction, anchored in the belief that your pain is real, and even though it's real, it's not final. The blue pill is not a lie. It's more of a lens. It doesn't deny your reality. It just adds layers to it, and it says something like, yeah, people fail. Yes, systems are broken, and yes, life hurts. But it also says, yes, people can also heal. And yes, there's beauty that exists in this beautiful world. And yes, it's worth trying again. See that duality? That's where dignity lives. Not in picking a side, but in holding both truths. That love can hurt, and that love can also still be worth it. That people can disappoint, and people can still be capable of change. That you can be betrayed and still remain open. Hope doesn't erase your past. Instead, it reclaims your future. So if you're still believing in something, don't apologize. Don't minimize it. Don't flinch when others roll their eyes at you. Let them call it blue-pilled. Let them say that you're soft. They don't understand what it takes to stay tender when life tries to harden you. But you do. And you're not alone. There's a quiet army of people who are choosing to love in spite of the hurt that they've experienced, to trust anyway, and to still hope. They may not be allowed. They may not be trending, but they're out there, and maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're desiring to be one of them. So as you navigate and progress through the noise, here's your reminder. My dear listener, you're allowed to want connection. You're allowed to keep believing, and you're allowed to live with open hands. And that does not make you foolish. It makes you human. It reminds you that we're common in our humanity. And the more you show up as that kind of a human, the more space you create for others to do the same. And that's how a culture begins to shift. Not through arguments, but through example. Not through winning debates, but through living with depth. So the next time someone calls you blue-pilled, smile. Because what they call naive might actually be noble. And what they dismiss might be the very thing that keeps this world from falling apart. So don't let the noise make you numb. Instead, choose intentionally to stay soft. Choose to stay grounded. Choose to stay real, because that is the bridge back to us. Thanks for listening.